I have to be honest with you right off the bat. There is a specific aisle in the bookstore that I usually sprint past.
Oh, I think I know the one.
You know the one I'm talking about. It's usually tucked away in the back, somewhere between cookbooks and history. The self-help aisle.
Ah, yes. The land of pastel book covers and promises of eternal bliss.
Exactly. And there are certain titles in that section that, depending on what kind of week you're having, just kind of, well, they annoy you. Like, picture this. You're having a rough week. Your boss is micromanaging you. The traffic is awful. Your coffee order was wrong. And you're done. Then you see a book titled, Nothing Changes Until You Do.
It's triggering, isn't it?
It makes me want to throw the book across the room. My immediate reaction is, excuse me, I'm not the problem here. Have you met my coworkers?
Right. Have you seen the economy?
Have you tried driving on the freeway at 5 p.m.? It feels like victim blaming.
It feels like a finger pointing right at your chest. And it challenges that very human instinct to look outside ourselves for the source of our frustration.
Yeah. We want the world to change first. We want the circumstances to align, and then we'll be okay.
Right.
But this book, by Mike Robbins, is basically a 40-chapter reality check that says, sorry, it doesn't work that way.
A reality check that I think we probably all need, even if we really, really don't want to admit it. So today we are deep diving into Nothing Changes Until You Do. And I have to say, what I found surprising about this source is the author's background. You don't typically expect a book about emotional intelligence from a guy who spent his youth in a dugout.
That's a really important piece of context. I mean, Mike Robbins is a former professional baseball player. He pitched for the Kansas City Royals organization.
Right.
So he comes from a world of high-stakes performance, statistical analysis, and just, zero-sum competition.
Which I appreciate because it suggests that what we're discussing today isn't just about feeling warm and fuzzy. It's a performance strategy.
Precisely. Robbins pivoted from baseball to becoming an expert in teamwork and emotional intelligence for, huge corporate clients like Google and Microsoft.
He spent over 2 decades looking at what actually drives success. And his core thesis here is that true transformation is an inside job.
Okay.
We tend to think that external success, the trophies, the promotions, will fix how we feel inside. Robbins argues the exact opposite. Your inner thoughts, your emotions, they're the architects of your external reality.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We're going to see if we can debunk the myth that we have to fix the world to be happy. Instead, we're going to look at how fixing our relationship with ourselves creates what Robbins calls a ripple effect. And look, I'm going to be the skeptic here today. If you're listening and rolling your eyes thinking this is just happy thoughts, stick around. Because I plan on pushing back.
I welcome the pushback because the science actually, it backs this up.
All right, let's unpack this first big idea, the paradox of inner change and outer success. Robbins talks about a mental model called have, do, be. I felt very seen by this, and not in a good way.
Most of the Western world operates on have, do, be. It goes like this. If I have the right things, the title, the money, then I will do the things successful people do, and then finally I will be happy and confident.
That sounds completely logical to me, though. If I have $1 million, I can do what I want, so naturally I'll be happy.
Right.
How is that wrong?
It's a trap because the finish line just keeps moving. You get the job, but then you need the promotion. You get the house, then you need the renovation. You're constantly postponing your state of being until some future condition is met.
Okay.
Robbins flips this to be, do, have. You start with the being. You cultivate confidence and self-compassion now, regardless of your circumstances.
I know.
And because you are that person, you naturally do the things confident people do. You take risks, you collaborate, and because of those actions, you eventually have the external success.
Okay, I want to challenge this. Because there is a very loud voice in our culture, and definitely in my head, that says self-satisfaction is the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
If I'm happy with where I am, won't I lose my edge? Don't I need that little voice saying, you're not good enough to keep me grinding? If I just accept myself, won't I just, sit on the couch?
That is the critic is motivator myth. We think if we put down the whip, we'll stop running. But the source material gives this really compelling counterexample from his baseball days.
Right.
He talks about a specific athlete he worked with, incredibly talented, just top-tier physical skills, but this guy was stuck.
Stuck how?
He was stuck in a cycle of mediocrity because every time he threw a bad pitch, he would physically and verbally just, assault himself on the mound.
Oh, yeah, we see that all the time in sports. We call it passion or intensity.
We call it passion, but physiologically, it's a total disaster. Robbins explains that this self-flagellation sends the body into a massive stress response. Cortisol, adrenaline, it creates muscle tension, tunnel vision.
Oh, wow.
You literally lose your peripheral vision and your fine motor skills degrade. So, by beating himself up to do better, he was making it impossible to perform.
So he was bullying himself into failure.
Exactly. Success only came after he learned to forgive the mistake instantly. Once he stopped the internal trash talk, his stats shot up. It wasn't that he stopped caring, it's that the negativity was literally stymieing his growth.
Stymieing, that's a great word. It's like trying to drive a Ferrari with the parking brake pulled up.
It is. You might move, but you're going to burn out the engine. And it's not just sports. There was a story about a business professional, let's call her Sarah, plagued by imposter syndrome. So afraid of messing up that she micromanaged her whole team. She couldn't delegate because a mistake by her team felt like a reflection on her.
I think a lot of managers fall into that. They think they're maintaining high standards, but they're really just projecting their own insecurity.
Precisely. When she started practicing self-acceptance before the results came in, she loosened her grip. She trusted her team more. And guess what? Her department's output went up. The criticism she thought was keeping her sharp was actually dulling her leadership.
Okay, so we accept that the inner critic isn't a good employee. But firing that critic is really, really hard. Which brings us to part 2, the art of self-acceptance.
Right.
And I have to say, self-acceptance is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot, but Robbins gets pretty specific about a technique here that sounds, well, excruciating.
You're talking about the mirror exercise.
I am. And I'm just imagining listeners in their cars right now just rolling their eyes into next week. But walk us through it.
It's simple, but it is intense. You stand in front of a mirror, you don't fix your hair, you don't check your teeth, you look directly into your own pupils, and you just stay there.
Okay.
Then say affirmations like, I am enough, or I accept myself exactly as I am.
I have to admit, I tried a version of this after reading the notes, and I couldn't hold eye contact with myself. It felt incredibly vulnerable. I wanted to look away, check my phone, do literally anything else. It was so difficult.
That discomfort is the data, that urge to look away. That is the measure of your resistance to your own worth. We can look our partners, our kids, our pets in the eye with love. But when we look at ourselves, we immediately start objectifying. Look at those wrinkles. My face looks puffy.
We start editing ourselves instantly.
We do. The exercise forces you to confront the human being in the glass. It breaks that dissociation. Robbins argues you can't lead or love or sell effectively if you can't even look at yourself with kindness for 10 seconds.
It connects to another big theme in the book, vulnerability. I think a lot of us think, okay, if we accept our flaws, we should still hide them, to maintain our image.
The armor.
But Robbins says vulnerability is actually a power move.
He shares this very specific story about a corporate executive, a classic strong jaw, never let them see you sweat kind of guy. He had spent 20 years projecting this facade of perfection.
Which is exhausting. I mean, that's a fast track to a heart attack.
Exactly. And eventually, the pressure got to be too much. He was facing a crisis, and instead of bluffing, he took this massive risk. He called a meeting with his team, and he just told them the truth.
What'd he say?
He said, I don't know the answer to this, and I'm actually really struggling with it.
I bet he thought he was signing his resignation letter right there.
That was his fear. If I'm vulnerable, they'll eat me alive. But the result was the total opposite. It didn't make him look weak. It made him human. The team rallied around him. People started speaking up with ideas they'd been holding back because they were afraid of contradicting the perfect boss.
So his vulnerability actually unlocked the collective intelligence of the group.
Exactly. By accepting his own limitation, he gave permission for everyone else to be honest. That is the ripple effect in action.
It's fascinating. It reframes vulnerability not as oversharing, but as a strategic leadership tool.
Okay, moving on to part 3. We need to talk about the lens through which we view the world. Gratitude and abundance.
And we need to clarify gratitude here because it gets a bad rap as just being polite. Robbins isn't talking about manners. He's talking about cognitive filtering.
Cognitive filtering. Explain that. It involves the reticular activating system, the RAS in your brain. It's the part that filters the massive amount of data coming at you.
Okay.
If you decide to buy a red car, suddenly you see red cars everywhere.
Yeah, every single intersection.
That's your filter. If your filter is set to scarcity, looking for what's wrong, what's missing, who's the problem, your brain will efficiently find evidence to support that. you will just see a world full of threats.
Versus the abundance mindset.
Right. If you practice gratitude, and he suggests, specific tactics like writing down 3 things you're grateful for every morning, you are reprogramming that filter to scan for value. You start seeing opportunities where you used to see roadblocks.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here. In the corporate world, isn't scarcity the reality? There is only one promotion. If Jim gets it, I lose. It is a zero-sum game.
That's the default view. Scarcity says the pie is fixed. If you eat, I starve. It creates paranoia hoarding information. Abundance, as Robbins defines it, is the belief that there are enough resources for everyone to thrive. If I believe in abundance, I view you as a potential collaborator, not a threat. I'm willing to share credit. I'm willing to mentor people.
And paradoxically, the people who share credit and mentor others usually end up with more influence than the people hoarding it.
Exactly. The person hoarding information might win the battle for that one promotion, but they lose the war for influence. The abundance mindset plays the long game.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting for me, and also really terrifying. Part 4. The fear of loss and the power of surrender. I have to tell you, surrender is a trigger word for me. To me, it means waving the white flag. It means losing. It means I gave up.
You are not alone in that. We're obsessed with control. We think if we grip the steering wheel white-knuckled, we can prevent the car from crashing. But Robbins argues that this obsession is actually just fear in a mask.
Fear of what?
Fear of failure, fear of the unknown.
So how does he redefine surrender so it doesn't sound like quitting?
He defines it as dancing with uncertainty. It's not about giving up on your goals. It's about giving up your rigid attachment to how those goals happen. It's the difference between rowing a boat upstream, fighting the current, versus putting up a sail and using the wind.
That's a nice metaphor, but give me a real-world example. Because if I surrender on a project deadline, I just get fired.
Fair point. Let's look at the story of the woman who was laid off. This is in the book. She loses her corporate job, high status, good pay, gone.
Which is a nightmare scenario. Total panic mode.
Exactly. Her control instinct kicks in. She starts frantically applying for jobs she doesn't even want just to get back to safety.
Yeah, because we've all been there. Fix it, fix it, fix it.
But then she stopped. She realized she was operating out of pure fear. She decided to surrender to the situation, and she asked herself this dangerous question. If I wasn't afraid of being broke, what would I actually do right now?
That is a very expensive question to ask.
It is. But the answer was write. She had always wanted to write. So instead of taking another soul-crushing corporate gig, she gave herself 6 months. She surrendered to the uncertainty of that creative path.
And I assume, since she's in the book, it worked out.
She published a book that became a bestseller. But here is the key, and this is so crucial. The nothing changes until you do moment wasn't when she sold the book. It was when she stopped fighting the reality of the layoff.
Oh.
If she had stayed in control mode, she would be a middle manager somewhere right now, probably miserable. Surrender created the space for the better option to enter.
It's about being adaptable. It reminds me of that Bruce Lee quote, be water. Water doesn't crash through the rock. It flows around it.
Exactly. Control is rigid. Surrender is fluid. In a rapidly changing world, fluidity wins.
All right, we're coming into the final stretch of the deep dive, part 5. And this is where the rubber meets the road on an emotional level. Healing specifically, compassion, and forgiveness.
This is the deep cleaning. We can do all the affirmations we want, but if we are carrying around a backpack full of resentment toward others or ourselves, it just drags us down. Robbins identifies compassion as the antidote to that inner critic we talked about earlier.
He actually suggests a physical technique here that I found interesting. We talked about the mirror, but this one is the hand on heart.
Yes. It sounds almost too simple to work, but he suggests that during moments of stress or self-criticism, maybe just blew a presentation, you physically place your hand over your heart center and offer yourself kind words.
Is there any science to that, or is it just a comforting gesture?
There is actual biology involved. Physically touching your heart center releases oxytocin. It signals the parasympathetic nervous system to calm down. It's the same biological response as a parent holding a child, but you are doing it for yourself. You are physically signaling, I've got you, you're safe.
It breaks the panic loop.
It does. And from that calmer state, you can get to forgiveness. And Robbins is very, very strict about the definition of forgiveness.
This is important because a lot of people think forgiveness means saying, what you did to me is okay.
Right. You betrayed me and that's fine. No. Robbins says forgiveness is not about the other person at all. It is a selfish act in the best possible way.
How so?
Think about anger as holding a hot coal in your hand, waiting to throw it at someone else. Who's getting burned?
You are.
You are. Forgiveness is just dropping the coal. It doesn't mean you invite the person back into your life. It doesn't mean you trust them. It just means you refuse to carry the weight of that resentment anymore.
You are reclaiming your own mental energy.
Exactly. And I assume the hardest person to drop the coal for is usually ourselves.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
We hold grudges against ourselves for mistakes we made 10 years ago. Why did I date that person? Why did I take that job? Robbins emphasizes that we must treat ourselves with the same grace we'd offer a best friend.
That makes sense. If my best friend made a mistake, I wouldn't follow them around for a decade, reminding them of it every single morning.
You tell them to learn the lesson and move on. But we deny ourselves that same closure.
So what does this all mean when we put it together? We've gone from baseball stats to mirror work, from scarcity mindsets to hand-on heart physiology. What is the through line?
The through line is that you are the common denominator in every single experience you have.
Right.
You take yourself with you to every job, every relationship, every crisis. And if you don't change the internal environment, the self-talk, the forgiveness, the external scenery can change all at once, but your experience won't.
Nothing changes until you do.
Exactly. It's empowering, but it's also a big responsibility. You can't wait for the cavalry to come save you. You are the cavalry.
I love that. Well, we have covered a lot of ground today, but before we let the listener go, I want to leave them with the challenge Robbins poses. It's a question that honestly stopped me in my tracks when I read it.
It's the best friend test.
Let's hear it.
The question is this. If you talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself in your head, would you still be friends?
Oof. If I'm honest. Probably not. I'd be considered a toxic friend. I'd probably be blocked on social media.
For most of us, the answer is no. We would be sued for harassment. So the final thought for you, the listener, is, what is the one thing you need to forgive yourself for today, right now, to start being a better friend to yourself?
That is a big question to mull over on the commute home. Thank you for guiding us through this, and thank you to Mike Robbins for the reality check.
My pleasure.
To our listeners, thanks for diving deep with us. Remember, the ripple effect starts with you. We'll see you next time.